Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Wrestling Retro Talk. This is episode 3. Imagine we've gotten this far so far. I'm here again with Twisted Elbow Tubbs and Richard NG. Tubbs, tell us what happened, Joe.
A gate defeated me. I was jumping over a gate and it swung open and I cracked and fractured my elbow.
What you're seeing now may be... Sorry, dude. Had to do it. If it was you or me, we would both done the same. So, so thanks everyone for joining the show. As always, don't forget to subscribe and like if you like what we're doing, because we've loads of other shit on this channel as well if you're not into wrestling. So let's get on with this week's episode. And this week we're going to start with some comments from last week about our little chat about HBK and Undertaker. So just give me a sec there. Okay, so from a group on Facebook called Wrestle Talk, a girl called Ruth Hollins, she said, "Good show, guys. That is one of my favourite matches you reviewed. I have to admit that I agree with Stephen. I give that match a 9.52. Undertaker is my all-time favourite wrestler, and HBK is up there in the top 5. And watch Tubbs smile.
Yeah, I mean, it's easier to like the match if they're some of your favourite wrestlers, which is kind of why it kind of swung it for me, so I get that.
Awesome. And on YouTube, we have a couple of comments actually, which is good, as always. If I can find them now, it'll be even better. Okay, so Brad's Vlogs and Reviews says it was Jarrett who literally laid down for Hogan. Hogan pinned him with a boot, then he got out of the ring. It's when Hogan got to the mic talking about Russo. Now, I think we were talking about Joe Kevin Nash lying down last week.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, okay.
I think that's what he was referring to. So he also said about you, Rich, he said, "I'm blown away. He doesn't like Taker or Sean. I'd like to hear who he does like."
Who do you like, Rich?
Well, it depends from what promotion, depends from what era. If you're Bret Hart was also a classic. Owen Hart, God rest his soul, one of the best wrestlers of the time, and could have been one of the greatest wrestlers. We never got to see what he was capable of doing because there was no one in WWE with his standards. So people like them. Then you've got, if you're looking kind of current, like Omega, Cole. I love Cole. Does great things in ECW. Huge fan of Balor, more in New Japan than what WWE are doing with him. There's so much people I do love, but it's just I was never a fan of those two. I'm not saying they're shit wrestlers. They're not for me.
Okay.
People have their favourites, do you know what I mean?
So the next comment was from Let's Survive Paddy Plays, who's a friend of the channel. He comments on everything, thankfully. He said, "I will suggest what I suggested last time," because I didn't read the comments. This is my first time reading them. "I'll suggest what I suggested last time. Hardy Boys versus Edge versus Edge and Christian at Unforgiven 2000. I love this episode. I was like Rich, having watched it for the first time. I'd rate it a 7.5 just because it went on too long. Even as a fairly low-level wrestling fan, I even recognized the botches. But loved hearing your take on it. I love the dynamic you have going on, and I'm here now for every episode going forward. Great work, gentlemen, and thanks very much, Paddy, for that." What do you think of that, guys?
I think we should do that match then. He's asked for it, then why not?
Got to give the folks what they want.
Exactly. I mean, it is a good match. In all fairness, those guys always put good matches on for each other, so let's do it.
Excellent. So
definitely.
That's our way. Thanks, Pads, for the suggestion. That's our match for next week, locked in already. So let's talk about this week's episode. The match we selected was a triple threat from TNA, AJ Styles versus Christopher Daniels versus Samoa Joe for the X Division title. So, what was your thoughts beforehand?
Straight off the bat, man, like when I switched it on, I was like, "My God, this is 15 years ago." They all look so different. Like crazy different, you know. One take I will say was Christopher Daniels is so underrated as a performer. Oh my
Agreed.
God, that guy he is just a superb talent, like genuine. The match in general, man, it was like it just never slowed down. Like from the minute the bell rang, it just kept going and going and going. It was just, you know, oh my God, it was like lightning fuel, man.
Who was your favorite going into the match?
Well, back see TNA, like I was a big AJ Styles fan, but I loved the dynamic of all three because there was this kind of lore behind Samoa Joe being like undefeated up to that point. And then there was the whole feud between AJ and Christopher Daniels as well. It was red hot, like. So it was just a brilliant dynamic, man. Do you know what I mean? But I liked Christopher Daniels. I was a fan of Joe, but my favorite was AJ Styles.
What about yourself, Rich?
Three great guys in one match. So instantly you know that this is going to be a strong match. You know it's going to be all go from the very second, and that's what we got. It was a fantastic match. I'm a big Joe guy. I fucking love Joe. Seen him live. I got to see him fight AJ live, and just like brings back memories of just seeing like them two battling it. I was like, holy shit. It's unreal to see like what you're saying like 15 years ago, and back then how great they were, but how they're just as good now, 15 years later, if not like I'd say some of them in certain aspect of things are far better. Just like executing different things, like they're all like you've got two of them in WWE, and then Christopher's in AEW, and they're all just kind of like they're all just doing great things if they're not injured. Joe, but you know, like this match, you didn't know just going in thinking about this match. If you were to put those three names down on that match, stop playing with your hair, Tubbs.
About time someone told him.
You knew this match was going to be amazing, and I have to agree with Meltzer's 5-star rating on it. Anyone who disagrees with that, then you don't know wrestling, because that was a 5-star match.
Fight me. For me, like when I turned it on first, it was like watching something in the Stone Age, because we're all so used to HD vision now, like. So I was like, huh? Squinted to look at it. But the first thing that got the memory bubbles going with me was AJ Styles' music. Did you guys remember in the 2000s? I don't know whether you got it or not. No, but we had Sky Digital here, and there was a channel called TWC, the wrestling channel, and it showed Ring of Honor. It showed, was it CZW and TNA and loads of other independent wrestling foundations, and AJ Styles' phenomenal music used to be like on the ads about 100 times a day, because there was no normal ads. So that song was like blazing into my fucking brain. But
did you like his original tune?
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah, I was the same. When the minute I heard it, I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Here we go, old school AJ.
I was a big fan of Christopher Daniels as well back in the day, because I remember he used to do like was it like an evil preacher kind of gimmick or something?
That's what it was. It was the fallen angel gimmick. But you know, he kind of revamped it up and kind of stuff over time. But that was it, Jen. It was I think he became the preacher later. I could be completely wrong on that. I think it was after this match, in and around that time scale. But his gimmick was fantastic. His in-ring style is brilliant. Dude was just how he never made it to like WWE or anything like that in his career. Maybe he didn't want to, but you know, to see like, you know, Joe and AJ both go there and to not see him there was, you're kind of going like, oh, that's strange.
Do you remember when Edge and Christian were fighting the guys in the gold suits, the Conquistadors?
Yes.
I think they were called. Christopher Daniels was one of those.
Oh, before the whole Hardy Boys thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was working in the background or something, but yeah, he did have a small time role, but no, he's much more travelled, I think, than WWE.
Yeah, very much so.
He's great at Curry Man gimmick. Have you ever seen that?
Yes, Jesus, man. I only remember that right now.
I'm going to put in a picture of that right now. Curry Man was like a Japanese, when he was wrestling in Japan, he literally like dressed in red and fucking was called Curry Man. It's ridiculous. There'll be a picture here anyway. But back to the match. It was, as you both said already, it was non-fucking stop. It was relentless, like, wasn't it?
I mean, the thing I liked about this match is, like, by the end of it, these three guys looked like they'd stepped out of a war.
Yeah.
Like, they legit looked like they had battled. Do you know what I mean? And it wasn't a thing of them just, just going, oh, this guy won or this guy lost. They legit looked like they had beaten 10 pounds of shit out of each of a person in that match, and it was legit, like, because they did not stop, and normally triple threats are very hard to play off, Brian, and Joe, as you know, like from watching them in Rich as well, it's the pace can be lost in the middle or something, you know what I mean, because you're trying to transition from one, two wrestlers to the next, and then it kind of rotates around. But this was like, once one move was done and one guy went down, like Joe was in, and then Joe was down, and then AJ was in. It was constant. Like,
it was seamless, like, wasn't it?
I mean, I remember I checked the timestamp at like 22 minutes, and I was going, "Oh my god!" Like, they haven't stopped for 22 minutes, and there's 8 minutes left of this match. I was going, "My god!" Like, it was brilliant.
That was a solid match. Like you're saying, you look at the time and you're like, 22 minutes, 8 minutes to go, but the stamina and the energy from all three of them was there the whole time. This was it was almost like a flawless match. Everyone had like a fair chance of being like, oh, is Joe going to win? Is it AJ? Is it Christopher? Like, you were like I said, I think it was last week's episode, you could kind of tell when someone's getting the upper hand, and then you're going to be, yeah, they're going to win. But this match, you couldn't predict who was going to win that match. Like, it was so hard to tell, because it was a fucking battle. There's some stuff that we're doing, like when you seen Joe throw himself over the top rope, I was just like, they're putting everything out in that ring today, kind of thing. It meant everything to them. So it was just like, it's all or nothing, and you could see that through all three of them when they were competing. It was so fucking brutal. Some of the things that they were doing, like you said, in a triple threat match, I was sitting myself watching this being like, man, a triple threat match would probably be the worst type of match I would want to be in. You're beating one person and being like, you're so invested kicking the fuck out of someone else, to be like, oh, there's someone else there as well. It was just well told throughout the whole thing. Like, this is such an amazing match. If you haven't watched it, then I recommend that you should go and watch this after viewing us.
Yeah. But what I watched recently, which ties into this, is I watched a triple threat between Brock Lesnar, Seth Rollins, and John Cena. I watched it during the week, and I was like, I watched this now. It was on some channel. I said, I'll watch this now, and this is hailed as one of the best recent triple threats. Before I watched the match today, and Jesus Christ, like, it doesn't even compare, like, the AJ match. Like, even the transitions between the moves between the three of them, there's no botches. Everything is fluid and seamless, and just flows. Like, I actually couldn't get over some of it, even as I watched it on my hungover state today.
No, but I've seen some triple threats myself, man, over time, and I agree with you, Brian. And more so in WWE. WWE seems to have this like, quote, WWE style that they do in certain matches, and it becomes, you see it all the time. It's what they'll take one guy out, and it becomes two people in the match, and this goes on for about maybe 3-4 minutes at a go, and then the other person comes in, and then one guy goes out. It's like they're giving breathers to each person throughout the match. This, for me, looking back in it and just seeing it, because, I hadn't seen it in a while, I watched it, like, I think it's 3 or 4 times before, but it's been a while since I've watched it, so I kind of had forgotten spots. But just to see the differences in style, this was pure, like, thoroughbred independent style. You know, it was just hard hitting. Like, they were hitting so stiff at times. Like, I was cringing watching some of the punches they threw. I was like, oh my God, like, you know, and some of the moves. Like, at one point, I think Joe hit Daniels in the corner, and like his head hit, like, flipped back. I was going, oh my God, he's after killing him. Like, and then he just comes at him again, you know what I mean? It was hard hitting, it was stiff, and it was from start to finish, go. There was no let up, and not in a bad way. Because even as Rich said, it was like they flowed and married into each other, move for move, hit for hit, you know.
What was good about what you're saying? You watched the Cena, Lesnar, and Rollins match. With those kind of matches, like, you can't predict what they're going to go. You've got Rollins, who comes from the Indies and that, and he's probably done a couple of like the broad show matches. No, we compete for like an hour. So his Yeah, the broad show, I think they're called a broad show matches. Could be wrong. Correct me in the comments. But like, you got somebody like Lesnar, like he can't last in the ring that long these days. And then you've got like Cena, like he can put on a good match, but he needs someone good.
Yeah, he needs someone to put a match out.
Work off of like I'm not going to go into deep because we'll get fucking well off the topic. But like, you go back to like that match we're talking about. You had 3 guys who clearly can last. They could probably go an hour. That match could easily last an hour with those 3 guys. Like, they could actually do that, and they're all taking their turns. There is at times that all 3 of them are like basically beating the shit out of each other. Like, you're talking about some of the punches, but some of those kicks that Joe was doing, I was sitting there being like, I can feel that. Yeah. Like, I could fucking feel that. Like, it was just brutal. Yeah, like, this, I would probably say, like, to me, this match was far better than your Taker and Shawn Michaels match. I'm putting it out there.
Okay, so I know I mentioned earlier, but as we said, it's kind of a spot fest match. But what would you guys say would be the best moment or spot, whichever way you want to put it, in the match? Tubbs, go first. We'll say.
I have 2.
Okay.
First one was when Christopher Daniels does like a 2-legged kind of baseball slide to knock Joe out to the outside, and then kind of just goes up and does like I think it was a split-legged moonsault out on top of Joe, and the 2 of them are kind of battling out on the floor, and then AJ just comes and just hits a sunset flip clean off the top rope and knocks all 3 of them out. I mean, I marked out for that spot because that's the one I remember, but the spot I had forgotten was when Joe had Daniels in the Coquina clutch on the ground, and Styles literally does a move he doesn't do anymore, the spinal tap, and he just he cleans the 2 of them out with that move. I mean, he bounced off of Joe like, oh man, it was horrible. Like, but that spot for me, because being, you know, because he's in WWE these days, you don't see that move anymore. So, you know, and when to see him pull out the spinal tap, you're kind of going, oh my God, you know, that's so cool, just so old school. That move, and it was just the impact of it, man, sold it for me. I was like, that's fucking unbelievable. It's phenomenal. Even there's the camera. Look,
get out. What about yourself, Rich?
It would have to be the reversal from when Christopher was putting a way to put AJ in the suplex, and he reversed it, and he thought he was going to do a rope into a pin, but then he changed it into the style splash. Just like the way that was done, I was like, oh my God! Like, you thought it was a pin, no, in the style splash kind of thing. Then he goes for the pin. I was like, because that must have been about 25, 26 minutes into that match now, so he must be getting a bit tired. And to pull that off, I was just like, holy shit, that is fucking wicked. You don't get much of those kind of moments in wrestling these days.
Yeah.
That's my number 1.
My one, you kind of stole a bit of it, Tubbs, but I'm going to go with it anyway. You know, when Daniels and Joe are like doing all these reversals, pin reversals, and then Daniels goes to throw back to pin him, and Joe just out of nowhere locks in the fucking clutch. It just caught me by surprise straight away. I was like, oh, fuck, I forgot he did that. And I thought, Jesus, is this it? Because generally, right, I think I watched a different match years ago. I couldn't remember who won. So I was like, oh shit, is this the end? Which it made it even better for me then at the ending when it came. But that Coquina clutch was fucking class, I thought. Just the speed and like predatory instinct even to grab it where he did.
Going back to what you were just saying there, is that, I have seen this match before, but like you said, because there's another triple threat, I had forgotten that this was the end in this match, and it took me completely by surprise. Because they've a series of them. But there's one more spot I want to mention in it. I don't know if you remember this spot, is when Daniels does a monkey flip to AJ, and it looks like Joe's about to catch him in a powerbomb, and he hurricane runs Joe out of nowhere, and Daniels is in the corner just looking like at AJ, like he was like, how did he just do that? You know, just thought that even on Daniels' face was fantastic. Like the way he just sold it, you know. There was so many in this match, though. There were so many spots in this match. You're looking at it going like, and even at one point, do you remember kind of similar to the shooting star press that AJ did?
Yeah.
Then AJ and Daniels are kind of like throwing blows outside the ring, and Joe then just comes with this spiral plancha over the top rope. Like the guy is so.
He's a big guy.
And it's the speed he moves at as well, man. Is what I love about Joe. Is like this. He's not a Braun Strowman. He's not like a big, huge, like Joe dude. But he's a heavy set dude. He reminds me a lot of how Kevin Owens is. Kevin Owens is a heavy set dude. He moves really fast. He hits hard, and that's Joe. Like WWE screwed up Joe so bad. Like they had a killer on their hands, man. They could have shot him into the stratosphere. But it was this match, man. I can't say. I don't even know if I can say any bad things about this match. It was so good.
You're going to have to know, because the next question is, what did you find either the worst spot or a bad thing about the match or a bad spot? I'll go first this time, and we'll reverse it up a bit. I thought something I noticed pretty early, and it went on a lot through the match, was I could actually hear them calling spots, and I could see them as well calling spots to each other as well. And once I saw it once, it was like, it kind of took me out of it a lot. So I watched it a second time as well, just to make sure. And it definitely you can hear them calling spots, and that's usually not something major for me, because John Cena does it the whole time. The people in third row can hear John Cena calling spots, but I just didn't notice it before in this match. What about yourselves?
I'm the same, but I especially, and it wasn't down to the wrestler, it was actually the camera angle, was when Joe had Danielson in the FTF.
STF,
on the conversation. But supposedly, Danielson says in an interview that you can't notice it, but Joe rushed to the finish a bit earlier than planned. So for the last few minutes, they were making the match up. To the finish again.
Whispered into his ear.
But you see them talking a lot when he's in the STF, and the referee's talking, them two are talking, and then you see them kind of the match kind of goes on again, and it's when it goes up to my favorite part, when Danielson's away to suplex AJ, he's got him in that suplex pose for a good 30 seconds, and you can clearly tell they're talking the final, the last kind of part of the match off. Once again, you wouldn't really notice that as much if it wasn't for them having certain camera angles they were using. I mean, both of you guys do movies and films or whatever, so you guys would know that as well, to kind of it shouldn't have used that kind of spot. That's what killed it for me. It was more noticeable in the FTF. I didn't really notice much talking, because the commentary was so oh my God, in your face, and I was right. It was literally so loud. I thought the guys were in my room. I would say that was my worst spot, but it was only, and it wasn't down to the guys. It was down to the cameraman zooming right in to that STF kind of moment. It was just it could have saved so much for that match.
And before we go to you, Tubbs, on that note, do you think it's because we're so conditioned now to having such clear fucking angles and HD TV and all this, and when it goes back 15 years or whatever it is, you spot this stuff way more easier? and the shitty kind of quality. You could see that a lot more because you're so used to it nowadays, having such perfect angles and stuff.
I think you could agree to that, but I think also, what are we all mid-30s?
Yeah.
Age.
Tubbs is really far.
Oh, not. That's why it breaks so easy, Rich.
These are the things that we know to be looking out for. Unfortunately, not that we actually plan to look out for them talking during these matches, but these are the things that, from watching wrestling for so many years, it's just more noticeable. Like the older we get now, and when it is as brutal as that match was, it's such a clean match.
Yeah.
That you are going to notice these things a bit more, once again. So, where I wouldn't say, I think there's a mix of everything to why we notice it now, and we don't notice it maybe as much. I mean, we notice it now because you have people like Lesnar in the ring. You know what I mean? It's going to be like, I'm going to do another F5, but fucking get my belt. You can hear Lesnar that he doesn't really, it's not his strongest point, but back then it was just down to the camera guy being so fucking close and picking it up.
What's your worst moment?
Well, I mean, as I said there before, I just have to apologize for all the moving around. My hand is stiffening up, so I got to move around every few minutes. Yeah, it's a pain in the fucking hole. But one of the moments I didn't like in the match, and it's not even like a bad thing, or it's just something that, like, me personally, when I was watching, I was kind of, I don't like that. It's when they brought the belt into play.
Yeah.
And tried to do that whole schmoz of is he going to get disqualified? And then they kind of used it for Daniels to hit him anyway. I just thought this match did not need that spot. It did not need belt interference. It was lightning fuel from the beginning. It should have been lightning fuel till the end, and it still was. But I feel that one spot, I was watching, I was going to go, I don't like this, because this match is just raw, thoroughbred wrestling. Crazy spots, high impact moves, super stiff hits, and now there's a belt in play. And because it was going back to what I was saying a while ago about not remembering the finish because there's two of these matches, I was kind of going, wait, is this how this is going to end? Because I'd be really pissed if this is the ending to this match, because of how good it is. But thankfully they got rid of it within a few seconds, and it was kind of out. But then the ref had kind of seen the hit and did nothing about it. I know it was Daniels. I know Daniels did the kick and kind of, it was kind of Joe's fault. So there was no disqualification there. But it just kind of, I was like, I don't like that. But that's just a personal issue with it. You know what I mean? I'm not to say that it's bad. People watching the match might have loved that spot. But personally, I didn't enjoy it.
It's good to have such nitpicky fucking things about it, though. That just shows the quality of the match.
I mean, no, but I mean, that's the whole point of this. Do you know what I mean? Rich was saying about about the camera angle and stuff, and you were saying about because have we kind of do we look at it differently nowadays? I think you will still find moments like that in WWE with the big HD productions and stuff as well. But I just think that was one of those. It definitely was the wrong angle to show, because that was right on Joe. You could see Joe even more or less edging him towards the rope, telling him where to go, because he had his hand in his head, so he was reaching. He was kind of guiding him as he was talking as well, So, things like that, little tiny things. And if I want to be super nitpicky, because it's a triple threat, it's a hard piece to do, man. You know what I mean? I told you this before when we used to do them. It's hard to maintain those matches because there's so much going on at once, But it's the couple of times I noticed the pins were kind of even when Daniels was in the corner at one point, he didn't even go for the pin, and he was the champion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's the champion. If you're 2 feet from that guy and it looks like you're about to lose your belt, you're the guy that is going to be in there trying to stop that pin. And I noticed once or twice that happened. I was kind of going, he should really be in there trying to break that up. But they're only little tiny things that you watch as a fan and go oh, maybe they should have done this. But outside of that, man, there's not much more.
Okay, so go on, Rich. Would say something?
No, I was just the way to say Tubbs, your kind of least favorite part. But I thought it kind of added to the story because Christopher was getting desperate. Do you know what I mean? He wanted to retain his belt, so kind of doing something like that, it just showed you how desperate he was becoming, because everything he was doing wasn't working. So what else could he do to try and retain that belt? So to me, I just thought it was perfect for him to try and pull a stunt like that kind of thing. I just thought it really added to the story. That's why I thought about it. I totally agree with what you're saying, but I just thought, like, from like a whole story aspect of things, like showing how desperate that Christopher was willing to kind of retain his championship. I just thought it was perfect to bring that belt in.
No, I mean, I totally get that. I think for me, the reason I didn't like the spot more so was because I was so engulfed in the action at that point, and just seeing, move after move, hit after hit being reversed. Because as we've talked about in the last two shows, I'm a massive story wrestling fan. I love storytelling. Like, this is why, like, the monkey flip into the Hurricane Rana spot was so big for me, was because of how Daniel sold it. He couldn't believe that AJ was like phenomenal enough to be able to pull that off. I did it twice in this video, but it was just. So I think when the belt spot happened, I don't think it was a bad spot. I just think, for me personally, I was so on the ride of the match that I was like, oh, don't slow it down. Don't take it down a gear. I just want to keep this thing needs to keep going for me, because I was enjoying it so much. I think that's what it was. I think it's not a bad spot. It's not me saying like, oh, this is terrible. It wasn't even a bad spot. It was just, for me, I could have done without that, because I just wanted the action to keep going. If that makes sense. I don't know.
For the finish.
I'm pretty medicated, so.
That's nice. What did you make of the really, really quick finish?
Slightly disappointing.
I really loved it.
It caught me by surprise. I thought it was really, like, it was coming to a crescendo, and then it kind of just fell off with that quick end. I thought there was going to be a more definitive finish to the match.
One thing I will say, right, and this is the kind of match, the beast that you're dealing with this match. I don't know if you agree with me on this, Rich. But you had seen them throw everything but the kitchen sink at each other for nearly 30 minutes. Like finishers, high spots, stiff hits, and nothing was working. So that for me was kind of like, oh, well, AJ's like, I'm just going to flip this and try and pin him. I'm just going to like take his move and flip it on him and see, does that work? And it took Daniels by surprise, and he lost it. Because, I mean, and you could have had that like big massive moment, but I think the entire match was those big massive moments, from the start of the match onwards. I mean, like, there was at the 23rd minute, I think I was watching it, and I genuinely was kind of going like, geez, this is like ramping up a game of WWE 2K and just putting up infinite finishers and just going. You know what I mean? At one point, because they were hitting and hitting and hitting. And I think that's why that finish worked for me, because it was one of those things where like they'd hit each other with everything at that point. So it's like getting a schoolboy out of nowhere after like 30 minutes of battering each other.
This show does not endorse WWE 2K20.
I'm going to head out.
Worst wrestling game on the planet. But anyway,
it was
guys,
a disappointment. I think
verdict,
we can all agree.
Verdict on the match out of 10. I'll go. Who wants to go first?
Go, Rich.
9.5? Is that what you said?
Yep, that's what I said.
Perfect. Tubbs?
I'm going to go 9.5 as well. There's not a lot I can take from this match, minus the nitpicky stuff that is still good,
Lads, this is a bad episode. We all fucking agree. 9.5 for me as well.
I mean, it's not a bad episode when the match is damn good, dude.
Yeah, we're going to have to pick something outside of next week, where we have one picked already. We're going to have to get something more divisive.
I think we're going to have to go with one of Rich's suggestions from a few weeks ago, man. I'm like, do a Bram Panties match or something.
I think I think we should end this show first anyway, because we've run over time. So, and we can chat about this in the after party. So, once again, lads, thanks for coming on the show. And join in next week. We'll have Edge and Christian versus the Hardy Boys at TLC 2000, I think it is. No, that's probably wrong. But anyway,
no.
I'll have it in the comments below there. So thanks once again for joining. I hope you enjoyed the show. And hopefully Tubbs' elbow will be better by next week, a little bit anyway. And see you later, guys. Bye.
All right.
Oh.
So that was Retro Wrestle Talk episode 3. I hope you enjoyed the show. And once again, thanks for everyone for watching. And make sure to drop any suggestions on what matches you would like to see us do in the future. We're going to do Edge and Christian versus the Hardy Boys at Unforgiven 2000 next week. It's a steel cage match, so make sure to tune in for that. And once again, thanks very much for everything. Please subscribe if you liked what you saw. And drop a like, drop a comment, and get involved in the discussion. And thanks, everyone. We'll see you again. Bye.